Canterbury 30 defeated the Bulldogs 6.
Canterbury beat the Bulldogs. Yes.
Sharks beat Canterbury 30-6. I should have a jar for that, shouldn't I?
You just seem to. It's always the Bulldogs too.
It is too.
All
right,
not about that.
It's because you just switch off after like 15 minutes.
Yeah, I just go out of there. Fall asleep now. So, all right, we'll start a jar. We should have something where we all should have like a fine system.
Right. Dollar,
whatever.
Trip over your word or
we'll pick it up. So obviously the ones I miss, but then we'll work out what you blokes miss.
We're going to have to invest in at least 5 jars.
GT will be all over it. We'll need to buy like a fucking 44
I need to give a shout out to Leah too, who actually does our spreadsheets and is a big fan of the show. Outstanding young lady and a big fan. So she'll be keeping track of the Dally M points while GT is gallivanting around the US countryside.
What's the Dally M? I've never heard of that thing.
Oh, man, either. There's another one in the fan. All right, $2 in the jar.
It's still the preseason, man. It's all right.
Just getting the iron still. Tell us some stats about this freaking game so we can get out of here.
5 tries to 1, 5 out of 5 conversions for Nico, 1 out of 1 for the Dogs. 77% completion, played 67%. 31 out of 40 sets, played 23 out of 34. 5 line breaks to 2, 34 tackle busts to 10, 7 offloads to 11. 3 forced dropouts by the Sharks, 1 by the Bulldogs. 0 40-20s, 272 tackles by the Sharks, 286 by Canterbury. 1 ruck infringement to the Sharks, 1 inside the 10 against the Sharks. 5 penalties conceded to 9, 11 errors for both teams, and both teams had a sin bin. Hammy Nueli with 24 tackles, Max King with 30, Andrew Fafita with 128 metres, and Brent Naden with 150 metres. Nicora made 23 tackles and missed 4. And Hetherington for the Bulldogs made 15 tackles and missed 4.
May I? Now, we saw all off-season how Canterbury are going to finish 8th or 4th or minor premiers or somewhere in between. But I watched that game and I watched the game last week and all I saw was a team that couldn't win a game last year. And how are they going to win the game this year? Honestly, they got some Pelicans in the forward pack that seem to have already abandoned any leadership roles that may have been on board. Not the front rower. No, he was okay. But Tavita there was already lost his marbles, wanted to throw punches early on, everything else. Matt Burton came in and tried very hard, but their defensive structures are atrocious. They were just picked apart on both sides of the field. Anytime the ball went wider than about 3 wide, someone was just scoring a try. It's almost like their coach has issues being a first-grade coach. But I watched that game, and as I said, after last week's trials, the more things change, the more they stay the same. It felt a lot like 2021, apart from the Matt Burton much vaunted right foot step, which I suggested would be the only scoring opportunity they get all year. It seemed like that's all it's going to be all year, because the rest of it was very average to watch. Luke Thompson's a very good player. I don't know if anyone's noticed that. He's their best player. Josh Jackson, Gump suggested he's a passenger, and I'm nearly on board with. I know he's got to make 50 tackles a game, but
he worked hard.
He works hard, but he had close to 0 in attack. And beyond that, I do not have a positive to come forward with for Canterbury. I feel like Josh Adekabu very sad by the middle of the year, except he's going to be doing stupid TikToks with field goals. So good on him. He makes lots of money off it.
He'll win an Origin Series.
And he'll win an Origin Series and play for Australia. So good on him. I hope it all goes well for him. But apart from that, Dufty we didn't see at all. And I know he can run fast when he gets a drop ball, so he will do that at some point.
He didn't even seem to be putting himself in a position to take the ball.
Just not interested. Naden looks like he's lost half a yard of pace and wants to throw himself at people's heads. So he'll be missing some time this year. So all positive signs for the Bulldogs that they'll finish pretty close to where they did last year. So good on them. Sharks were good, and I'll let you talk about them, Barn, and then give your thoughts on the Bulldogs.
Yeah, right. So Trindle played a much better game than what he did last week. He definitely got him around the field, and he was he played a lot more direct this week.
How many games he had for?
Trindle. Was it the one? Or did he get 2?
I
1 or 2 games.
2.
Yeah, but he played a lot more direct, which helped Hines. I think gave him a little bit more. He sort of played more of as a 6, to be honest, and Trindle played more as the 7. I know Hines was the first guy to get his hands on the ball, but generally when it went to Trindle, he either straightened the play up or he went straight out to the outside back. So I honestly think they should be playing Hines at 6 and Trindle at 7, but we'll see what happens during the year. Hines had some really good touches and try assists and a couple of line break assists. Finucane had, a couple of nice, strong carries, and he just adds that, as we said before with Yo, he's just that little bit of glue. He seems to slide off and make tackles that guys sort of half miss, and then he makes sure it gets shut down before they get through the front door. Didn't play a lot of minutes, but I'm sure he'd be playing at least 60 to 80 in the majority of the games going forward.
It looked real good. I thought you just go right, you just tick and go, yes, they're Finucane's at our club. How good.
Yes. Oh, 100%. Ueli had his best game in a long time. Probably one of the better games he's ever played, to be honest. Strong ball carries and his defense wasn't too bad, which is one of the things that does let him down at times. Fafita definitely looks fitter than he has for a long time. And if he can play his 20, 30 minutes and do some nice, strong carries up the middle, that's pretty much all they're going to ask from him, I think, for this year. Nicora and Pele had some really big carries of the football. Nicora was hitting gaps extremely well, and young Franklin Pele, I don't think I've seen him run like that in any game that he's ever played in first grade. So if he can again play 30 minutes, 40 minutes and run like that when they give him the ball, that he'll make a difference. Ramian was decent with the ball in hand, but he's not the worst defensive centre in the world, but there's a couple of question marks around him. Hunt, again, another one, had a really good game. And Teague Wilton, they worked their backsides off. And this Jesse Calhoun, don't know much about him, but he's definitely a worker. He made 30-plus tackles again, 14, 15 hit-ups. He's definitely someone that will just work all day by the looks of it. So he'll I guarantee you he ends up in the 17 by the end of the year. So if he's going to keep putting in performances like that. And Beryl, decent backup hooker. I don't think he'll play much because Brayley's an 80-minute hooker, but there's something about him. He's got a little bit of up and at him, gets buzzing around out of hooker. So Luke Thompson, as you mentioned, was easily the best for the Bulldogs. Paul Vaughan and Max King put in a shift. They both worked pretty hard. Max King looks like an exciting young prop coming through, so he might be one sniffing around in your super coaches if you're looking at that. Corey Waddell was okay. Burton did a couple of nice things, but he was handled pretty well. There's not much else I really say about the Bulldogs.
But the thing is with Burton, it makes life so much easier when there's one bloke you have to study.
Yeah,
absolutely. Build up. So, Ollie, you watched this on your fine Foxtel television, and what did you take away?
I took away that, and you alluded to this, and it's starting to dawn on me now that maybe the Bulldogs won't win the comp this year. Perhaps, maybe.
No.
This is just a further example of how you can't just trust that main sort of thought that people fall into, and when people sort of want to see a team do a bit better because they haven't for the past couple of years, they let the heart get in front of the mind. No, the Bulldogs aren't going to finish in the goddamn top 8 this year. They're not going to finish ninth, so I'm not going to have to get a Bulldogs tattoo on my ass, which, by the way, the bloke who I've got that bet with, oh boy, was I having a good time with him during this game. He just replied with a bunch of different photos of Jaden Ockenball, which, fair enough, he was creative. He got the different photos. It was never the same photo. But
that is clarified again, top 8?
Ninth
top
or above.
9.
I said ninth or above because
okay, cool.
Okay, and you know what? After this game, how smart
you're feeling all right.
Because, like they're not gonna. Imagine if the Bulldogs do finish ninth, like I'll happily get a tattoo of whatever you want on my ass or anywhere in my body because Jesus Christ, this team looks very ill-disciplined. I'm not just talking about the couple of peanuts who sort of stood out. At halftime. The penalty count looked like something from the pre-six again days, honestly, because like the Bulldogs were just giving away so much. I think Cronulla gave away one penalty in the first half, and a lot of that just gave the momentum over to Cronulla, and they were able to jump on the back of that. So that's one real issue I've noticed with the Bulldogs heading into this season is their discipline just as a side, as a whole. to be honest. They really need to fix that up. Otherwise, that's going to lose them a lot of games. And, those 50-50 games that they could be in with a chance of winning, if that ill discipline sort of comes into play, they lose every single one of them. So it's important that they sort of get that under control. Dalfanukan, I thought, was a big standout for Cronulla as well, as was David Fafita when he was on there. Of course, coming back from that injury last year, I think there were...
Did you give us David Fafita, did you? Did we swap Fafitas?
All right, I'm going to...
There's one in the chart.
There's one in the chart. But Andrew Fafita...
Who'd have thought 2.5 hour podcast while getting drunk would lead to mispronunciations?
But yes, Andrew Fafita, the brother of David, and I don't know if he's related to the other David, was very good in this game, especially coming off of his injury last year. I think we all pretty much said he probably played limited minutes off the bench if he did. And I think a couple of us even may have not had him in our side. I can't remember off the top of my head, but officially I don't think I had him in my side. I definitely changed that now from what we've seen from him in the trials as well. And it looks like a pretty good setup there with Trindle and Hines. I would swap the positions as you would, Barney, but of course, I'd say Will Kennedy, while he wasn't perfect or at his peak from last year, still showed why Nicho Hines is playing in the halves instead of at fullback, which I know there was a bit of contention throughout the offseason from some fans. Why wasn't Hines playing at fullback when he played so well there last season? Well, Will Kennedy had a pretty all right season last year as well, so I thought he further cemented that.
He didn't get involved a lot, but the couple of times he did on that sweep play, he injected himself quite well in there. So, and there's a couple of forwards still to come back for the Sharks as well. So,
they did look much more direct than they did last year. Playing to their strength, and saying Will Kennedy will draw from because he'll get chances in different situations.